What is going on, Borenstein fans, and welcome back to my channel. Elliot here to break down this second season premiere episode 1, which was titled "One Ring Don't Make a Dynasty." Ain't that the truth? As we see some of those key players who helped win that ring tackle with major change in this premiere episode as the Boston Celtics are ready to take down the Lakers. We'll be discussing that and much more in today's breakdown review, but first, I want to talk to y'all in the comments. What did you think about this premiere episode? What worked, what didn't work, and if you're excited for the second season, let's have some fun and talk about all that in the comments below. With that being said, we got an episode to break down. Full spoilers ahead. As we open with the 1984 NBA Finals Game 1 as the Lakers win 115-109 and take a 1-0 lead versus the Boston Celtics as the entire Lakers team and the coaching staff runs to their team bus while the angry Boston fans throw trash at them because, as Magic Johnson points out, they're mad, y'all. Now, losing at home for the Celtics that year was very difficult because that season they dominated at home as they went 33-8. As we see Coach Riley, for those who didn't notice, Coach Westhead is nowhere to be found because he wasn't the coach during that time. We see Coach Riley gives them a speech reminding them that they've won championships in the past, as has the Celtics, but this ain't just any old championship ring. They want their ring and they want their hearts with it. As the mob of Celtics fans make their way to the Lakers' white bus, hoping to make Coach Riley's speech come true in defeating their rivals for the championship. Before moving on, for some of you all that might be wondering, did the Boston Celtics fans really rock the bus? Well, yes, that did happen, but in reality, this happened in Game 7, not Game 1, and according to first-hand accounts, they rocked the vehicle back and forth, throwing beer cans and rocks at the windows, and in his memoir, Magic Johnson recalls being frightened and police had to break up the mob. Now, I personally really like these kind of flash forward openings. If you all recall, last season opened with November 5th, 1991 with Magic Johnson at the doctor's office, and now we have this one. To me, these openers set the main focus of the season, and this being a big indication that the Lakers and Boston Celtics rivalry, which in my opinion is the best rivalry in sports history, and it appears that that will be a major part of this new season. Cut back to 4 years earlier, summer of 1980, months after winning the championship, we see Magic Johnson is literally front and center and taking the lead by storm, which also we see him giving all his magic to all the women. Speaking of women, we learned that Melissa Mitchell, who claims that Magic is the father of her unborn child, which is expected to be born in the middle of the season, but Magic's main focus, when not in between those sheets, is this being his time and trying to repeat as a champion. As his legal team has a plan in place to pay her off to keep her silence, and if she speaks a single word of this or names that baby after him, the plan is to sue her for everything she has. You see that this doesn't sit well with Magic, but the decision must be made after training camp. It's moments like this that really showcase Quincy Isaiah's acting, as he can show you that more egotistical side of that young Magic Johnson, but in the same scene, he can also show you his concern for others, especially when he's the one at fault. Meanwhile, in New York, the NBA draft is taking place as we catch up with Jerry West and Dr. Buzz, who's pressing to keep more eyes on the NBA games on national television as we get a glimpse of ESPN being one of their suitors. I like how the show just continues to remind us and show us how much of a businessman Dr. Buzz was and how integral he was to spreading the success of the NBA across the world. After not making the NBA Finals last season, we see Coach Red is preparing to take his team back to the promised land, and he drafts in the first round, 3rd overall pick, future Hall of Famer Kevin McHale, and traded for the rebound-grabbing defensive stopper Robert Parrish. Now paired with Larry Bird, this is the best front court in the NBA. See, Coach Red reminds Dr. Bus that luck played a very big role in their victory last season and that they shouldn't be too greedy and let this be enough. Their back and forth to me is so great, and I'm so excited to see this play out this season. Their hatred throughout the season is going to be one of the highlights for me. Catching up with the Lakers coaching staff, what a difference a year makes, as we see Coach Westhead has a new change to his outfits and his style, going completely Hollywood, as he points out to Coach Riley that they're champs now and they have to look the part. But we see Coach Riley is mainly focused on his plan to be prepared to be taken down by the lead, as he has new plays, new schemes. But Coach Westhead believes that their jobs are to take charge as leaders of the team as coaches and to maintain order in the locker room. The question is, did success get to Coach Westhead's head? Literally and figuratively, Westhead did indeed go for a new hairstyle. In fact, he claimed in his memoir that it was him that first rocked that slick back look that Pat Riley would later make famous. Now, he also went for a new look offense. Armed with his $1 million new contract from Dr. Buss, the humble-rooted Westhead saw himself as a genius and came into the first full season as the head coach determined to prove it. Now, he reinvented this very offensive way of playing the game just a few months prior to the actual season in reality. Amongst the players, this was a controversial move, as we'll talk a little bit about later, because why fix what isn't broken? Now, I really love when the show plays in the comedic side of the story, as we see Magic believes that the captain, Kareem, his best days are past him based on last season's performance, and maybe it's time for him to give the team over to the young guys, but the rest of the team is still very much afraid of Captain Kareem. We even learned that Cooper mentions that he sometimes dressed in the shower to avoid Cap, as we see Magic Johnson can't muster up the courage to share his idea with the captain till a little bit later in this episode. Back with Dr. Buss, he continues to put his money where his mouth is, as he's wanting to get ahead of the free agency, and he wants to pay his players more to keep them on the team, and to him, that commitment will be returned tenfold on the court, as we see Jeanie continues to push more entertainment to the forum. This is a perfect example and one of many reasons why players like Magic Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant love Dr. Buss, because he paid his players to keep them around and kept them happy to play for the Lakers. You might be wondering at home, did Buss really dish out all that cash? Well, as you all can see on the screen now, he did raise all of the salaries of his key players throughout his tenure in the 80s of them winning those championships. So again, he did put his money where his mouth was. As we cut to Dr. Buss wanting to not only build a dynasty with the Lakers, but also build his trust with his kids, and he wants them to live under one roof as a family. I've been a Lakers fan for over 20 years, and I know all about the family drama with those kids, and last season was just the tip of the iceberg, and this episode really showed the tension between Dr. Buss and those kids. Now, we don't spend a ton of time with Cookie in this episode, but we do see that she still has Magic on her mind as she's trying to move on from Magic with this guy from church, and later, Magic tries to get her back in his life. As we cut to training camp day one, now we see that Cap's ankle is still an issue, but going into this camp, his stamina isn't where it needs to be, as the coaches are ready to wrap this up because of this, but young, energetic Magic Johnson and the rest of the team still wants to practice, which we can see is creating a little bit of tension within the team. Cap ain't ready to roll over yet, and he doesn't want to get outshined by these youngsters, as he wants to prove he's not wiped, as he runs with the B squad to prove that he still got it. I mentioned in my breakdown last season, this Cap versus Magic is definitely giving me some Kobe and Shaq vibes, and I'm here for it because I love this rivalry and I love this competition between the two. Now, this was easily one of my favorite scenes of this premiere episode. Seeing these two alphas going head to head is what I love about sports. It should be this competitive. When you have two of some of the greatest players to ever play this game on the same team, they should push each other, but also show the team this is how you stay on top. Now, as a lifelong Kobe Bryant fan, I remember him talking about why he loved practice so much, because he actually went at practice like it was an actual game, compared to the NBA now. And not to sound like an old head, but we hear stories all the time about current NBA players skipping practice or having days off during the game. And I know the game's different now, but it was just a different era during this time where players went at each other to prove their worth. We see things get a little bit too competitive, as unfortunately Cap gets his retina scratched and the practice is called off. You may be wondering at home, was there really tension between Magic Johnson and Kareem? Well, according to numerous sources, including the memoirs of both Magic Johnson, Kareem, and Coach Westhead, Magic came into the camp determined to make the team his. After winning the 1980 NBA Finals and clinching the championship with his historic performance in Game 6 when Kareem was out, Magic asserted more control right from the start of training camp. This led to a power crash between him and the captain. For his part, Kareem was not fully recovered from the injury. Coach Westhead describes him as showing up to camp in poor shape and opening the door for Magic's attempt to take over the team as a leader. Meanwhile, Dr. Buss plans to invest in his players, doesn't make Jerry West too happy, but he has to deal with it. But his ex-wife isn't on board with him wanting the kids to move in with him because he's so unreliable, and she wants him to set them free. So how does Dr. Bus decide to fix this situation with his family? Well, he does what he knows best, which is use money for the answer, as he mixes business with pleasure and gives his kids franchises, tennis, horses, and a country band as investments, and he makes some waves to making the money flow properly. Man, this is the father of the year. This was definitely an Oprah moment. You get a team, you get a team. As Jerry West, in reality, he did indeed gift his children with sports franchises. But a little bit more context to that. In reality, Jeannie took the stewardship of the LA Strings in 1981. Johnny began to helm the Lasers in 1982. And Jimmy really wanted to be a jockey. And at 6'4", attempted to be the tallest jockey in history and was given the control of the family thoroughbreds. The new season kicks off. The Lakers are on a roll, but it's important to remember that the Cap isn't playing as he's recovering from his eye injury. Off court, we see Magic Johnson learns that guilt, it gets easier when you live with it. As we see that Magic Johnson is sleeping with his legal advisor, who's married by the way, as we see that he's still not prepared to have those papers sent to Melissa Mitchell. As Kareem is preparing to make his return to the team, he's also preparing to become a father for the first time to his baby boy Amir, which means someone with the right to rule, which is the complete opposite of how he felt about Magic's approach to taking over the team. Finally see Magic tell Cap how he thinks the offense should be ran after starting the season off so well without him, and to Magic's surprise, the Cap agrees. Now he agrees because bringing his son into this world has really changed his perspective on this situation and has opened up his mind to partnership and sacrifice. I really enjoyed this scene between the two because it makes you think as an audience member, if you're not too familiar with the story, will Magic Johnson be willing to sacrifice and make this partnership work? More importantly, will he work to take responsibility and claim his kid and put someone else first? It's important to point out the coincidence that both Kareem and Magic both became fathers in the same year. They are very competitive, but also speaks to where they are at this point in their lives. One of them had a child with his wife, while the other most likely had a one-night stand. Get a little bit more context with Amir, which was Kareem's first child, who was born November 18th, 1980. According to his memoir, Giant Steps, Kareem saw Amir's birth as a chance to reorder his personal and professional priorities. Indeed, in 1981, he publicly considered leaving the Lakers and moving to New York City to live closer to his roots. Back to the hoops, it's time to lace up as Magic is in the zone and only sees himself on the floor and is dominating the game until he hurts his knee and is required to have surgery, and he'll be out for about 12 plus weeks. Now we see the team is struggling without having Magic Johnson on the court. Meanwhile, Magic is resting up, but doesn't stop him from balling off the court, if you know what I mean, and have to keep up his stamina while still having sex. But he has this heart-to-heart conversation with his knee as it reminds him that things may not be okay, and he might ever be the same after this injury. In reality, how bad did Magic Johnson hurt his knee? It was pretty bad. November 18th, 1980, in the in-game between the Lakers and the Kansas City Kings, which was approximately 7 minutes until halftime, Magic Johnson heard a quick snap in his knee and suddenly dropped to the ground. 6 days later, he had to have surgery to remove the meniscus cartilage in his knee. Now, there was a real fear that this injury might be career-ending. Now, in his memoir, Magic Johnson described this injury as being miserable, and he was terrified that he might not ever play again. With Magic out and the captain coming back, Coach wants to use this new game plan, which he coins as the system, which focuses on ball movement and precision. The ball must never touch the ground, and he wants these players to sprint to their spots. Now back home, Magic Johnson's legal team presents their offer to the Mitchell family, but Mr. Mitchell wants Magic to take responsibility to be the father, as does the Johnson family. Now, the truth about Andre Johnson, all the details of the private encounter between the Johnson and the Mitchell family have been fictionalized for this episode. There was actual tension between the families due to the pregnancy. In reality, Magic Johnson was in Los Angeles when Andre was delivered. He flew back to meet the newborn child the next day. Speaking of fathers, Dr. Buzz questions his sons and wonders, where's their killer instinct? During a family game night of Monopoly, while it's all fun and game for the boys, Dr. Buzz sees them not having that ability to take out their opposition, Even if they're family, they clearly don't have that same instinct as Dr. Buss. Which, not to jump too far ahead in reality, but when the boys are called to take over the team later down the road, any Laker fan like myself will tell you that those boys almost ruined the franchise. For many years, they were making terrible decisions, but more importantly, they didn't have that killer instinct. As we wrap up the episode, we see Mrs. Johnson meets with Cookie to help her son get out of the situation he found himself in, which admittedly felt like this was definitely a made-up TV drama situation versus what probably happened in reality, because I don't see Mrs. Johnson going to Cookie and not having the respect and putting that pressure on her to help her son get out of the situation. I kind of feel like that particular moment of the episode was definitely fictionalized and honestly kind of felt like it came out of left field. Now, I also felt that we should have spent more scenes showing Magic Johnson struggling with this almost career-ending injury and exploring those 12 weeks of him being out of the game, but also showing Cookie maybe trying to move on from him a little bit more further. So I wish there was more scenes focusing on those two particular storylines. We see them having the conversation on the phone as he wants to figure out a way to get her back in her life, but she tells him he has to figure it out before she gives him another shot. As we cut to Magic Johnson meeting his son Andre, we see that the Lakers' new system is starting to work and they go on a 7-game winning streak without Magic Johnson, who is scheduled to come back before the NBA playoffs. And we get another highlighted moment for me as we see Mr. Johnson fires Magic manager with some pretty interesting Samuel Jackson phrasing as Magic recuperates with his family. In the episode with Magic entering the arena and the crowd's going crazy, happy to see their young star making it back on the court soon. But after seeing all this hype going on, we cut to Larry Bird, who hits a shot to shut up the crowd, and he lets Magic Johnson know that he's here to stay and he ain't going nowhere, as we open the episode with the Boston Celtics versus the Lakers, and we end with Boston letting the Lakers know they're here to play ball. Now, a couple of notes before we wrap up this breakdown. Did the team succeed without Magic Johnson? Well, yes, the new system that the coach had implemented, it did start off a little bit rocky, but the Lakers managed to go 28-17 while their star point guard was making their return. Now, the question that this episode kind of poses, did the return of Magic Johnson disrupt the team when he came back? Well, a contemporary article described the scene depicted at the end of this episode in which the crowd's response to Magic's arrival seemed to disrupt the team chemistry. In reality, that game described actually took place in the Pistons and it wasn't against the Celtics. Overall, I thought this was a fantastic premiere episode that sets the stage for what I hope to be another great winning season for Winning Time. Make sure to leave your comments below. What did you like, love, or hate about this episode, and what do you all hope to see in this season 2? Thank you all for watching this breakdown today. I really appreciate you all. Before we wrap this thing up, consider hitting the like button, sharing today's breakdown, remembering to leaving your thoughts in the comment section, and consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that notification bell. I'll see you all next week for episode 2 breakdown. You all are awesome, and I'll catch you on the next video.